Welcome into the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. You're watching Austin Now. We are live from the studio here. Many of you probably coming here from watching President Donald Trump address the nation, something that was talked about in the days leading up to this. What was President Trump going to talk about tonight? Many expected it would be what he perceived as his victories. Others were concerned, was he going to make announcements about Venezuela? Of course, in the last 48 hours, we have seen a lot of things ratchet up in regard to Venezuela. President Trump spoke just hours before his address to the nation, talking about oil. For those who don't know, under Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's predecessor, that's Hugo Chavez, the Venezuelan government seized assets from some American oil companies after the country nationalized oil fields in 2007. So Trump was then interviewed, did a bit of a media gaggle there, and he said, quote, "We want it back," really demanding Venezuela to return land and oil rights to the United States. He was also seen posting on social media saying that the greatest armada ever assembled was standing just outside the front door of Venezuela there down in South America. So many people were concerned, is this going to be something of a declaration of war? That was not the case tonight. A lot of the conversation was about the last 10 months, President Trump talking about his victories and what he believed was inheriting a very poor situation from the Biden administration. So I'm going to play the first part of that. We won't show you the whole speech. He was up there for about almost 20 minutes. It was about 19 minutes, I believe. But we're going to show you a couple minutes here, and you guys can listen in to President Donald Trump addressing the nation from the White House. There he is. Take a listen.
Months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels with law enforcement, and words such as that just absolutely forbidden. We had the worst trade deals ever made, and our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. There's never been anything like it, and I think most would agree. I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else, with a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people. For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens, career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen.
So that is President Trump there talking to the nation, the address we had spoke about in the days leading up to this. Many people wondering exactly what President Trump was going to talk about. We assumed he would talk about his victories and really taking a victory lap over the last 10 months, of course, in this first year of office. Others assumed, was he going to make some sort of declaration when it comes to Venezuela down in South America? Hours before this, talking about he wants oil back. A lot of this has to do with what happened back in 2007, and so we can get into that more. But I wanted to go through, I did take notes during all of this when President Trump was talking. Went on for about 20 minutes, and that opening statement really saying there he inherited a terrible situation, really bashing the Biden administration. He also went on to say, mentioning men playing in women's sports. He then says, they flooded your cities, meaning they, Democrats. He was saying under Democrat rule, they flooded your cities with illegal aliens. He then says, we went from worst to best. He says he brought peace to the Middle East, ending 8 wars. He goes on to say he ended the war in Gaza. He then brings back to the domestics and the domestic situation. He says, I'm bringing those high prices down. They are all coming down and coming down fast. And then he goes, my favorite word, he says tariffs. He says there's never been anything like it, the economy that he's running. We are the hottest country anywhere in the world. He says you can ask any of the world leaders, and that is what they will say. So he goes on to say this, really doing sort of a victory lap with what he believes is the greatest economy essentially ever created, saying they've never seen anything like it. And then he introduced something very interesting here. Had to write that down. He mentioned a warrior dividend, and I just wanted to make sure I get this right. So he said, quote, military service members will receive a special warrior dividend before Christmas. He says the warrior dividend is in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. So this going to service members before Christmas, of course, in the amount of the nation's founding in 1776. He then brought up health care a little bit. Of course, over the last 2 months, we have talked so much about this government shutdown, much of that having to do with health care, these Obamacare subsidies that are set to expire. Many people asking, do the Republicans have a plan? Is there going to be a bipartisan plan? Trump talking about trumprx.gov. I'm sure there will be more explained on that, specifically, we assume, from Dr. Oz, who, of course, spoke with Trump many times regarding the concerns with Tylenol. We saw RFK Jr. talking about that. What was that going to mean moving forward? So Trump RX, he was saying he wants to take that money from the insurance companies that they're getting paid. He wants to give it back to the American people. He says, you, the people, deserve to spend that money the way you want. He then transitioned into which many people believe is the reason he won the election for the most part, was the border issue and having such a strong stance on that. He said the worst thing, and he kind of paused himself and talked about this. He said the worst thing Biden administration did, in his opinion, was allow a border invasion. He then talked about illegal aliens stealing jobs from Americans. He said that he has created more jobs than any president. He said more people are working right now in the U.S. than at any time, and he said that all of those new jobs were given to American-born people, of course. And then he went on to say and bash Minnesota, specifically a state that we have seen under fire from ICE agents as well. He goes on to say that the Somalians in Minnesota have stolen billions from that state. And, of course, we know he dislikes Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman out there as well. So the speech very much a victory lap for him in his eyes of what he believes is like nothing they've ever seen, the hottest country in the world. That was about 20 minutes. Really no mention of anything from Venezuela, more so just sort of a checklist of things that he regularly does talk about, and we hear him talk about these things a lot. Before we head to break, in just about a minute, we are following the Leander ISD meeting. That's not it, but here it is. And the Leander ISD meeting is there. As you can see, they are still talking as we speak, and we're going to check in on that as best we can. We are trying to understand exactly what they are doing with the elementary consolidation options. Of course, we saw this with Austin ISD being in such a large budget deficit, more than $20 million, having to essentially cut off schools. And we say the word consolidate, but of course it means some schools are going to be closed. So we saw, 50 public comments tonight from parents, concerned teachers, other staff members from Leander ISD, basically saying, please do not close our elementary schools, Steiner Ranch, Fabian, and Cypress. And you will hear from one of those people that talked tonight, one of those public comments. Will show you what she had to say, and then we're going to try and get a better idea of exactly what they are doing with this overall plan. It sounds like, based upon what our producer just said a little bit ago, that they may be amending some of this. So we'll keep you guys updated as best we can. They are talking about this right now. This is happening live right now for Leander ISD. So we're going to take a quick break. This show is going to be a little longer tonight because of this Trump address. So we'll explain that later. We'll be right back. back into Austin Now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. And as I had mentioned before, the show is going to be a little bit longer. Typically, we talk to you guys from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and then our 9 o'clock starts. But because of President Trump's speech to the nation, which was about 20 minutes, that's going to push us back. So we're going to try and stay here on the Fox Local app or live on YouTube until about 9:20, see if we can hang on that long. And then, of course, our regular news is going to start at 9:20 with Mike Warren and, of course, our reporters as well. I did want to bring up something that I had just mentioned before the break. Leander ISD, just north, is going through a consolidation plan, something we have seen with Austin ISD, something we've talked about for months. And, of course, when you have something like this, you've got these budget deficits, and you have administrators, you have school boards that are trying to figure out a way to get out from under all of this. We do know that the budget deficit is about $16 million. They believe that's for next year. If they don't put in a plan now, they believe by the following year, so 26, 27, that could grow to $29 million, which is more than the budget deficit that we saw with Austin ISD, which of course is a much bigger district, the biggest in Central Texas. And so right now, Leander ISD, and I will pull that up for you guys, they are talking about this as we speak, and they are trying to figure out a consolidation plan when it comes to these elementary schools. I wish I had sound for you, but they have been talking about this for, I want to say, 2.5 hours now. We have seen so much public comment from parents, staff members, administrators, people coming up and giving their voice in terms of, hey, can we not close down our school? But the school board members here obviously saying, hey, well, look, we understand that this is an emotional process. So I'm going to pull up a sound that we pulled just from one of those public comments. Of course, there's so many that we could show you, but one parent in particular had some pretty profound things to say. We want to show you what she had to say. I don't know her name. I wish I did, but this is what she had to say. And all of these people speaking only had a minute to talk. And if they went too long, they cut their mic. They weren't messing around. So I'll show you what she had to say. We'll listen in to this person during this public comment.
Good evening. 4001 North Quinlan Park Road. For you, this address represents dollar signs. For us, it's our home away from home, where everyone feels loved and inspired. You see it as a financial gain, but I see it as a loss of great teachers that work so well with one another, the loss of community that doesn't get built overnight, nor without lots of heart and dedication. You see your decision as a success, I see it as a massive failure, a failure to recognize the greatness within those walls. You can't begin to understand the special culture we have at our school because you've never taken the time to experience it for yourself. You're going to make a decision about our future without ever having stepped foot into our classrooms to understand the why behind our A rating. Sadly, you've never been a part of our PLCs, our vertically aligned cadres, to witness how we go about creating instructional practices that lead to student success. You shouldn't be eliminating what we're doing. You should be...
Speaker number 43, please.
As you can see, that they cut her off a little bit there as she was finishing. As I said, we saw more than 50 public comments regarding this Leander ISD consolidation plan. That woman right there coming up and emotional throughout the entire minute-long speech she was able to give. All of these public commenters were able to talk for a minute, and if they went over, they cut their mic. As you see there, she was saying, look, you school board members, you don't understand, you haven't been there, you don't understand what we have to do. Instead of getting rid of us, instead of eliminating us, you should be, enabling us to do what we need to do to help these kids out. That a lot of the public comments having to do with Steiner Ranch. That's just one of the three involved with this. So Steiner Ranch, Fabian, and Cypress as well. They are still talking as we speak, trying to figure out a situation right now. I'll pull that up. But they are trying to figure out right now exactly what they're going to do with these three schools. And there are some options, some of those options, and we think they're going to go with Plan 1. The first consists of consolidating under-enrolled schools in nearby campuses, and they believe, according to these numbers, that could save about $4 million. But in order for this to happen, those three elementary schools that I just brought up, Fabian, Cypress, and Steiner Ranch, those would have to close down. The second plan would focus on reducing personnel costs. The third plan, basically a combination of the two, and they estimate that'll have a savings of about $3.55 million. Plan 2 would have $1.78 million, Plan 1, $4 million. So the first plan, the plan that, of course, none of these people speaking tonight want, is the one that would save the most money. The school board trustees were originally expected to make this decision in October. So they are already basically 2 months behind on this, and so much of it has to do with this pushback. And you would imagine, it's December 17th. I mean, we're a week away from Christmas right now. You would imagine that they would have to get some sort of plan in place, because if they don't, I don't foresee them getting together over the Christmas holiday, even into New Year's, to try and figure this out. So just in our reporting over the last month or so, there was at one point that parents delivered 2,600 letters to Leander ISD trustees advocating for all campuses within the district to remain open, with some saying they don't feel their concerns have been heard. One parent saying, when you pour your heart and soul into your words, it's frustrating to feel like it's not being heard. We heard this so much with Austin ISD, of course, because a lot of parents saying, hey, we understand that you have to make budget cuts. We understand that we have to do something to get out of this budget shortfall, but could you at least allow us to talk? Could you allow us to just give basically our 2 cents if you would? And so that did happen. And so some of those elementary schools were ultimately not included in that closure, which was, I think it was 13 schools that we were talking about at the time. So things do change. Now, Steiner Ranch last year received an A rating. And so a lot of the public comments tonight had to do with the fact that, hey, this is a high-performing school. We believe we're doing a good job. We're teaching our kids. Why do we need to be the ones that part of it? But it's because of this under-enrollment. And so some of the ideas that were offered in those public comments had to do with, hey, do we want to go in an open enrollment route? Could we maybe get more people that way? A lot of these parents just trying to figure out anything they possibly can to keep this thing alive. So school board trustees then asked the community for grace as they turned to the agenda item of long-range planning. They said they understand the topic is a heavy one, but that no decisions have been made, and emphasized that the intention was to discuss their data and its implications in an open forum, which, as we can see right now, they are doing. As I mentioned, we don't have the sound of this, but this is live. This is Leander ISD talking about this right now, this elementary school consolidation plan. Once again, that's Steiner Ranch, Cypress, Fabian, that would be closed, and if that goes through, they anticipate the savings could be $4.1 million. You're talking about a $16 million budget deficit that could ramp up to $29 million next year. When we come back, we're going to have a small update on a fight that occurred on 6th Street. That'll be coming next. Welcome back into Austin Now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. As I mentioned in the first couple blocks, this show going to be a little longer tonight. That having to do with President Trump's address to the nation tonight. It was about 20 minutes, so we're probably going to go about 20 minutes longer than usual. Maybe even longer, actually. Probably almost, probably 20 minutes longer. So maybe we'll hang on here. We'll try to stay up live on the Fox local app until 9:20. You can also, of course, follow us on YouTube. You can go to that live tab. If you go to our page, Fox 7 Austin, click on that live page. You can rewatch shows that we do, episodes that we do, and you can also watch it live as well. It's actually pretty easy to use, to be quite honest. So that or the Fox local app, and then our regularly scheduled news will be coming on around 9:20 because of that presidential speech. And we do have some interesting stories tonight. The one that I wanted to touch on a little bit, and I wish we had video for this, but we don't. But a story from the Austin Police Department regarding something that happened on the night of that Texas A&M game. And of course, so much of our coverage from that night having to do with the case involving the Texas A&M student that, by all accounts, by reports, took her own life jumping off the 17th floor of a building here downtown. But something else that happening that night that we got wind of, this is from the Austin Police Department that says the date is November 29th at 1:30 a.m., 400 East 6th Street. Austin police detectives are requesting the assistance of the public in identifying multiple male suspects involved in an assault that occurred on Saturday following the University of Texas football game. It says the incident took place around 1:30 a.m. in the 6th Street Entertainment District, with 5 suspects confronted 2 male victims dressed in Texas A&M clothing. So we do have pictures of those suspects. Our very own reporter tonight, Katie Pratt, will be bringing you this story, and she'll explain more. But I just wanted to show you guys the suspects that are at large here, that they are trying to get more information on. This the first here, and we'll run through them. Suspect 1, they said a black male, mid-20s, short black curly hair, small build. You can see him right there in that photo. The next one, I don't know why that image went so small, but it did go a little small there. The second suspect, a black male, mid-20s, long black hair, also small build. And then the third suspect, this person right here, a white male, mid-20s, short brown curly hair, medium build. Anyone with information may submit a tip anonymously through the Capital Area Crime Stoppers program by visiting austincrimestoppers.org, or you can call the phone number 512-472-8477. A reward of up to $1,000 may be available for any information that leads to an arrest. So we'll run through it again. These are the 3 suspects involved with that assault on 6th Street. Katie will explain exactly why it happened, and it sounds like it had to do with the fact that these people did not appreciate what they were doing hand gesture-wise involving football, which, of course, sometimes fandom gets taken to a different level that it doesn't need to. But these are the 3 suspects. I don't know why that second image is so small, but these are the 3 suspects here. That's the final one. So going back now to something we were talking about before the break, Leander ISD obviously still talking in their board meeting tonight. I'll try and pull that up. Yeah, there they are right there. They are still talking, of course, trying to figure out a consolidation plan because they are in a $16 million budget shortfall. It could ramp up to $29 million next year. So the plan was, according to a draft they just put up, Fabian Elementary to join Westside Elementary at the Westside campus, and or Steiner Ranch Elementary to join both Bush Elementary and River Ridge Elementary. They then put up a resolution draft saying, quote, I move that the board, in alignment with the long-range resolution adopted on September 30th of this year, direct administration to develop, and here's 2 bullets here, a comprehensive district-wide secondary alignment plan that includes consideration of expanded grade span models that integrate elementary and middle grades. Second bullet here, consolidation scenarios, if appropriate, as determined by enrollment thresholds for the 2027-28 school year in the Vandergrift High School feeder pattern that include clear plans for facility use. They then go on to say, give them opportunities to increase enrollment and try inventive ideas like consolidating grade levels, perhaps. So many parents tonight coming to this school board meeting, which is live, happening right now. This is an old video. This is happening right now at this school board meeting. many of these people, Steiner Ranch Elementary, of course, and then Fabian and Cypress, saying, hey, please don't close down our school. Is there anything else we can do here to get out of this budget situation? As I had mentioned before, parents have sent more than 2,600 letters to Leander ISD trying to get them to just listen to them, to try and get them to do anything to try and stop this. Of course, Steiner Ranch received an A rating last year. That's an argument for a lot of people. There are other parents that want these trustees to hold off on making a decision until after open enrollment, something the district enacted for next year, allowing for students to transfer from outside of Leander ISD to campuses with available seats. That's the problem we have here. Some schools overflowing, other schools that's not the case. So they're trying to balance this all out, a balancing act that we saw Austin ISD having to deal with as well. And we're going to figure out exactly what that plan is. As I mentioned, the first plan was closing down 3 schools. That would save
The map here that you see is actually a map of
I think I did this wrong. I think I'm on. Yeah, that was wrong. Well, anyway, we got the times mixed up, but we're okay. As I said, we're going longer tonight, so the breaks were a little bit different there, so I apologize if we were going through this and you weren't hearing anything. Anyway, I wanted to go back to the Brown University shooting that happened over the weekend. Of course, there's a manhunt still underway. There are still questions to be answered. It's a mystery. So many people with so many questions here. How did this shooter get in? How did they enter this engineering building? And how did they just all of a sudden disappear? And why don't we have more answers to this? Now, the interesting part in all of this, Brown University, by all accounts, is probably the most camera-crazed portion of Rhode Island, which is not a very big state. But so much of that having to do with, it's a college campus, and so you've got this Ivy League campus, and you have a situation where there are more than 1,200 cameras around this campus. And so many people have said, okay, how does this person come onto this campus? And there's not enough video evidence to figure out exactly who they are. Now, we have seen some images, and we have seen a person of interest. We even saw a person of interest detained, okay? they were released. New photos were released yesterday, new video yesterday. Much of that video was actually 2 hours before the shooting took place. The shooting took place around 4 p.m. that day. The video we were being shown was about 2 p.m., this person going through the neighborhood. So according to the authorities here in Providence, the reason they don't have a great answer as to why they don't have more video is because they believe that this campus has so many cameras on it, but the fact is the engineering building is basically at more of the edge of the campus. So the person went into the auditorium, killed 2 people, injured 9 others, and then was able to walk off and just go into this neighborhood. So this is the police chief, the mayor, and the AG talking. I'm going to pull them up now so you guys can hear what they had to say. So they're gathering for this news conference earlier today.
So the map here that you see
is the police
actually a map of the area that we have been intensively walking on those streets, canvassing the area. So as you see the blue image, yesterday I mentioned that we need the public's assistance to check their camera assistance or any sort of video that you may have that could be helpful to us, that you, as you're watching it or as you're reviewing it, you feel there may be something that we can use. Please notify us.
So that was the police chief talking about the area they're looking at. This is the mayor now,
the Colonel made with respect to AI-generated images and other misinformation. We have created an online folder with all of the video and images that have been released. And we encourage both members of the press, but also members of the community. We know lots of people are sharing information, and we appreciate that. We think that will help with this investigation. But we encourage them to download and share the videos and photos from the website that has been created so that you can ensure that you're sharing an accurate and verified photo and video.
So that was the
So we have
mayor
found a lot of evidence that we need to be using
Here's the
utilizing
police
to hopefully guide us in the right direction in order to identify the individual that we're looking for. This actual physical evidence, there's DNA evidence, there's a lot of evidence that we're collecting to ensure that we can find the answer.
So as I mentioned, the police chief, the mayor, they've been under a lot of fire regarding this investigation because so many people, usually with these mass shootings, we either have who this person is because either they take their own life, they're neutralized by law enforcement, or we live in an age where there's just so many cameras and everyone has something on their smartphone or a security camera or a Ring camera that we're able to find these people quickly. This has been going on for days now, and so there's a lot of questions about the dissemination of information when it comes to these press conferences. Something we deal with, as reporters going out there. A lot of people will say, okay, why isn't the police chief telling us all the information about this case? A lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't want to compromise their investigation. At least that's what they'll tell us. Hey, we don't want to put out all the information because there's a person still at large and they know what we've discovered or what we haven't or what we're looking for, that may give them a leg up. And so we're getting to that point now where it seems like there's some people tired about waiting, and I think there's a lot of students. I mean, imagine being a student at this point. You've left perhaps to go home for Christmas break. Then you've got to come back. If this shooter has still not been found, how could you feel comfortable going on campus? And how would you feel comfortable if you're an engineering student having to go into this building? I can't imagine they would even allow that. So that's a whole other thing. So now the AG has kind of come in, I won't say necessarily to defend the mayor and the police chief, but it seems like they brought him in to kind of provide more clarity on this. So this is the Rhode Island Attorney General, and we'll hear what he has to say. He spoke during this press conference as well. Here he is.
Okay, would you like all of it? Why not? Well, because here's why. Because it doesn't tell us anything about who committed this crime yet. If we get a better image of who committed this crime, you'll have it. There is no effort to preclude the public, online investigators in the press, from getting to the result faster than we can.
Okay, so that's the Rhode Island Attorney General talking about this, essentially being asked, hey, why aren't you putting out, all the information that you have? Why can't we hear it all? And so he's saying, would you like to have it all? I mean, he's basically saying, I'll play devil's advocate here. If we give you all of that information, how does that help us in finding the suspect? How does that help us in trying to determine who this is? Yeah, you have that information, you can put it out, but what does that do on our end? He then goes on to say even more here, and this having to do with I believe the question has to do with the weapon that is used. And so there have been some online rumors that this was a long gun. There's been rumors that it was, a handgun. So that information is something that the Attorney General is being asked. We'll hear what he has to say.
You mentioned a long gun. I don't. We are not. We are not in a position to say, unless the chief, you want to square it, whether this was a long gun or not. I think that there's been an account from the TA. There are multiple accounts about multiple things, including how this gunman approached the victims. Those are not details that advance the investigation. Why not? They don't advance the investigation because as we interview witnesses, we don't want them to learn facts from these press conferences.
So as you can see there, as I just mentioned, the Attorney General essentially defending this. He was saying we cannot give out all of this information in these press conferences because they don't want the witnesses to be learning more information before they interview them in all of this. So this entire thing has been under scrutiny. We saw videos yesterday of FBI agents sort of combing through the neighborhoods, kicking aside snow during all this, even using a metal rake in all of this. Not quite sure what they're looking for, perhaps a weapon. We're not sure. But there's been a lot of scrutiny because you've got an area with more than 1,000 cameras on an Ivy League campus, and all you have are a few person of interest images, and we don't have any clear idea on who this person is. Now, they did release information yesterday, and I'm going to go back to that now so you guys can see this person of interest. And I want to show you it because it's interesting. They enhanced the imaging a little bit. I mean, they zoomed in a little bit more. You can see a person here, as I mentioned. This is 2 hours before the shooting happened. Here's another angle now. It looks like we've got security cameras. This isn't the university. This is from the neighborhood, and them trying to grab this information. And so here's another one here. It looks like the person is wearing a jacket, pretty much all black clothing. It looks as though the jacket, I don't know if that's a dark green, something of that nature. Then you got a black beanie there, and then wearing what looks to be like a COVID-style mask there. Interesting viewpoints here. We have more angles on sort of the gait of the walk. This is probably the best one here in terms of how this person is walking. This is the person of interest that they have right now. So they're going to continue to upload more images as best they can. But, I mean, this is the information they're getting from the neighborhood. And it doesn't appear that they have much from the campus. I think that's what's troubling for a lot of people, is that you've got this giant auditorium. Where's the imaging for that? And so we'll continue to update it. We're going to take another quick break. As I mentioned, it's sort of a different show tonight. We're going a little bit long there, so I probably cut off a little soon because the breaks are a little different. But we're going to take a quick break. We will be back in just a few. Welcome back into Austin Now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. If you're wondering why we're still on here, because President Trump tonight addressing the nation, we thought maybe that conversation was going to have a little bit more to do with Venezuela and what he has been saying about Maduro there. Of course, a lot of that speech having to do with him saying he was inheriting a terrible situation from the Biden administration and really doing sort of a victory lap there. So I'll just recap that a little bit. I took down some notes of the things he said. He said he mentioned that men were playing in women's sports during this time. They, the Democrats, flooded your cities with illegal aliens. He said, we went from worst to best. We brought peace to the Middle East, ended the war in Gaza, ended 8 wars, in fact, according to him. He says, I'm bringing those high prices down. They are all coming down and coming down fast. And then he said, my favorite word, tariffs. He said, there's never been anything like it, referring to the economy. We're the hottest country in the world. And then he mentioned the warrior dividend, which was probably the most interesting piece of that because it was new. All service members will be getting, before Christmas, according to him, $1,776, of course, to honor the founding of the United States, 1776, that year. He then also mentioned TrumpRx.gov, and then he finished to say the worst thing the Biden administration did during his time was the massive border invasion, and then he went on to bash Somalians in Minnesota. So really sort of a victory lap for him. I do want to give you guys an update on Leander ISD. They are talking still right now. This meeting's been going on for about 3 hours, I believe. I believe they started around 6:15, so they're trying to figure out a consolidation plan. Why? Because they are in a massive budget deficit of $16 million. If they don't figure out a plan by 26, 27, that could ratchet up to $29 million. So if they move forward with one of these plans, we do know that elementary schools could be closed in this. I was saying Fabian earlier because I heard a parent say that. It sounds like they're saying Fabian, so we're going to go with Fabian. I apologize if I said that wrong, Fabian. If I'm still saying it wrong, let me know. Steiner Ranch, Cyprus as well being involved with this. Now, if they were to close one of these schools, it would be the first closure in district history. So we are perhaps on the precipice of some history here for Leander ISD. We heard from so many people, so many public comments. I mean, 50 people were talking in this thing, and all of them coming up only being allowed to speak for about a minute, and then their mics were cut off. And so they got in as much as they possibly could. We'll continue to update you guys on if we learn any more about this. They're going to try and figure out a plan. They drafted up a resolution. I will read that again. The draft said, quote, I move that the board, in alignment with the long-range resolution adopted on September 30th, direct administration to develop a comprehensive district-wide secondary alignment plan that includes consideration of expanded grade span models that integrate elementary and middle grades. Consolidation scenarios, if appropriate, as determined by enrollment thresholds for the 27-28 school year in the Vandergrift High School feeder pattern that include clear plans for facility use. So that's kind of a lot of school district jargon there from the trustees, but the plan was Fabian Elementary to join Westside Elementary at the Westside campus and or Steiner Ranch Elementary to join Bush Elementary and River Ridge Elementary. We'll keep you guys updated that as best as we can. Of course, if you're used to our news starting at 9 o'clock, it's been pushed back to about 9:20. It'll probably be even later than that. I just got a number here. 9:21:22 is when we'll most likely be out of here. That might change. So we've got about 6 minutes left, according to this, trying to balance the time situation here. And then, of course, our 9 o'clock will start as normal and then run as normal there. So a lot of stuff to deal with today. I know earlier we talked a little bit about the Brown University manhunt that's still underway. Of course, the other national story that's gripped a lot of people is the killings of the Reiner family, specifically Rob Reiner, the famous director and actor, and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. They were killed in their home Sunday in Hollywood there, or Brentwood, I should say, more of a Brentwood neighborhood. And then information was coming out that the suspect was believed to be their son. So I want to pull up the latest on that. He did finally appear in court today. Yesterday, we talked about him not appearing because he was not medically cleared, a procedural issue. And where were we getting this information from? his very famous defense attorney, Alan Jackson, not the country singer I know, but Alan Jackson, who has, covered a lot of cases. Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, the Karen Reed trial. The guy has been around the block and knows what he's talking about. So Alan Jackson speaking with media earlier today, and I'll show you some images. Actually, you know what? Let's do that first. Let's show you the images of Nick Reiner appearing. Now, they didn't show him on camera, but there were court sketches of him, and we are going to pull this up. This is from Mona Edwards, the court sketch artist here, so I'm going to pull this up. This is the sketch that we saw earlier today. It was our understanding that he is wearing this blue vest as a preventative measure, sort of so he doesn't harm himself, a suicide prevention vest. We believe that is the case for this. And so we didn't see him on camera. We saw Alan Jackson on camera. We didn't see him. These are the court sketches of Nick Reiner, who is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his father, Rob, and his mother, Michelle, 78 and 68 years old, respectively. And this is Nick Reiner, their 32-year-old son, appearing in court today. So this is his high-profile defense attorney. I'm going to pull this up now, and we'll listen into what Alan Jackson had to say about his client.
I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
So that was Nick Reiner's defense attorney there, Alan Jackson, speaking with media members, saying this tragedy had befallen the Reiner family, saying that he asked for everybody's respect in doing all this and wants all the information to be gathered, all the information to be put out there correctly. As I have mentioned, Nick Reiner charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his father, Rob, and his mother, Michelle. There was a report out earlier today that Fox News put out, the cause of death by the medical examiner being sharp puncture wounds. So many reports had come out saying, was this a stabbing with a knife? I do know TMZ was reporting perhaps, they had heard through a source that their throats were slit. We don't know all of that information. I'm sure it's all going to be discovered there in court. The arraignment set for January 7th, so that's probably where we will follow up with this. We've got about a minute left, and I want to go back to something we talked about yesterday just because we got some good traction on it before we leave here. We've got about a minute. So I want to pull up the story we showed you guys yesterday. It was something, a story our very own reporter Marco Bittnell did, and this was an incident that occurred. He was leaving with his over at the Trail of Lights, and a seasonal employee was essentially fired here for making racist remarks. Now, in the video that I showed, he says, "I'm Texican, bro." He also said illegal cartel hot dogs, which I think is probably the main thing as to why he got fired. But there were some interesting comments here, perhaps the best one from John Michael Weatherly. "You guys are going to have to get Nolan to do his job and stop with the personal commentary. We just want to know what's going on without the biased reporting." I think we just gave a good play-by-play there. So a lot of people commenting on this saying this isn't news.
Spectrum.com/save. On your side, this is Fox 7 Austin News at 9.
Tonight at 9, Austin police are searching for suspects involved in an assault on 6th Street during the Lone Star rivalry weekend. Plus, the largest marijuana facility in Texas is opening in Bastrop. We will have a first look. And Austin ISD is suing home